All right, if you live in Gatineau, you know winter is no joke. The cold doesn't just knock on your door, it tries to find its way right into your walls. So today, we're going to talk about a huge, hidden risk, frozen pipes. This is your go-to guide for what to do when that winter chill gets a little too personal.
So let me ask you a question. When that temperature really starts to drop, do you ever stop and think, are my pipes actually okay? It's something a lot of us just don't think about until it's too late. And believe me, the difference between a cozy winter night and a total disaster can come down to that one question.
And we're talking about incredibly high stakes here. This isn't a little drip, drip, drip situation. A single burst pipe can unleash hundreds of gallons of water into your home. I mean, think about that. That's enough to destroy your floors, your walls, and even damage the structure of your house. It's a catastrophe. So what's the big deal? It's just frozen water, right? Well, to really get why this is so dangerous, we have to take a quick look at the pretty powerful science happening inside your plumbing. Here's the key thing to remember. When water turns to ice, it expands. And it doesn't just expand a little bit, it expands with incredible force. Enough force to split open a copper pipe, crack a PVC line, or even burst steel. You've basically got one of nature's strongest forces trapped inside your plumbing, and it's trying to get out. Okay, so how can you tell if you're headed for trouble before it becomes a full-blown disaster? Let's run through the key warning signs that you absolutely have to be on the lookout for. All right, the first one is the most obvious. You go to turn on a faucet, and nothing happens. Maybe you get a sad little trickle, but mostly just silence. That is a massive red flag that you probably have a total ice blockage somewhere in the line. But it's not always so dramatic. Sometimes you'll just notice that the water pressure seems weak. It's slower than usual. Don't just ignore that. You can think of that as your pipe's final warning call. It's your chance to act before it freezes solid and bursts. Now, this next one is a little bit spooky. Imagine all your faucets are turned off, but you can hear the sound of running water, a drip, or a hiss coming from inside a wall. That is a really bad sign. It could mean a pipe has already burst where you can't see it. This is a drop everything you're doing kind of emergency. Okay, so you've noticed one of these signs. Your heart starts racing, and the first instinct is to panic. Don't. Let's walk through exactly what you need to do right now to get the situation under control and keep the damage to a minimum. There are two things you have to do immediately. No negotiating. First, find your main water shutoff valve and turn it off completely. That stops more water from flooding your house. Second, pick up the phone and call for help. For anyone in the Gatineau area, that number is Plombier Gatineau at 819-317-0262. They're on call 24/7 for exactly this kind of thing. Now, while you're waiting for help to arrive, you might be tempted to try and fix it yourself. You have to be super careful here. If you can see the frozen pipe, you can use something gentle, like a hairdryer, to warm it up. But, and I absolutely cannot stress this enough, never, ever use an open flame like a propane torch. You can cause the pipe to literally explode, or you could start a fire. It's just not worth the risk. So what happens when the pros finally get there? Well, they don't just point a heater at the wall and call it a day. There's a proper, methodical process to make sure the problem is solved safely and completely. A real professional is going to follow a few key steps. It starts with getting to fast, that's the emergency response. Then they use special tools to play detective and find the exact frozen spot. After that, they thaw it out, but safely and gradually. Then, and this is crucial, they assess the damage to check for any hidden cracks. If they find anything, they repair it right then and there. And finally, they give you some good advice so it doesn't happen all over again. It's the whole package. Look, when you've got an emergency at home, trust is everything. So what should you be looking for in a local expert, especially one who really understands the challenges of an Outaouais winter? First of all, experience in the area is a huge deal. A team that spent more than a decade dealing with these harsh Quebec winters, well, you can bet they've seen pretty much every frozen pipe situation you can imagine. And all that experience adds up to a strong track record. You see a number like 5,000 plus completed jobs, that's not just a number. That's a history of trust and reliability in the community. That tells you a story. And then you've got the official stuff, which is actually really important. An RBQ license means they're accountable. CMMTQ membership means they're certified master plumbers. And full liability insurance, that protects your home while they work. These are the things that give you real peace of mind. And I think this quote here really says it all. You're not calling some faceless national chain. You're calling your neighbors, local people who live and work in the same community you do. They get it. But of course, the absolute best way to deal with a burst pipe is to never have one in the first place. So let's switch gears and talk about some simple, proactive things you can do to protect your home.
And this stuff is easier than you think. Insulate any pipes you have in cold places, like crawl spaces or attics. Seal up any drafts you find near your plumbing. If you're going away, don't turn the heat all the way off. Just turn it down. And on those brutally cold nights, let one faucet drip just a tiny bit. Oh, and here's a great one. Open the cabinet doors under your sinks to let the warm air in. Seriously, these little things can make a world of difference. So at the end of the day, it really all comes down to being prepared. Don't wait until you turn on the tap and get nothing, or hear that awful sound of a leak. A little bit of action now is really the best way to protect your home. And if the worst does happen, just remember that help is available around the clock. So grab your phone and save this number, 819-317-0262. Having that number ready to go could be the single most important thing you do to protect your home from serious damage this winter.